106.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday morning. I'm going to read something from a book. This is a book that we'll be talking about during the next interview. The book is called 5-Day Weekend, and our guest is one of the authors of the book, Garrett B. Gunderson. Let me read you a little piece. It says here, congratulations, you've leveraged your first deal of $408 per month cash flow to create $1,395 per month. You don't have to stop. Continually leveraging into bigger and better properties makes real estate so compelling and lucrative. How many of you had your attention peaked when I read that to you because you've always wanted to do this, right? You've always wanted to do this. You're not saying you're going to quit, you're not going to retire, but you would just like to have that 5-day weekend that is promised, or implied anyway as the promise in the title of this book. It's called 5-Day Weekend. Garrett B. Gunderson is on the phone. He is the founder of an Inc. 500 firm. He's a contributor to Forbes and is a New York Times bestselling author. Good morning. How are you, Garrett? Thank you for being on the air with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Look forward to the conversation.
And where are you right now?
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Salt Lake City. So do you buy a lot of real estate and then become a landlord? Is that part of what you do?
So about a decade ago, I bought a lot of real estate, and then I'm now mostly out of real estate, and I created a different way to create that recurring revenue and kind of regular income outside of a job.
Okay, and that's a great thing that was a great answer, because that's what I was wondering. Is the real estate avenue like the only way we could do this?
No, and part of the problem with real estate, if I'm calling it a problem, is that people tell you it's a passive income, but it takes work. There's property managers, there's finding the deal, there's financing the deal, there's tenants, there's legal contracts and corporate structures to it. So I just found I didn't really enjoy it and love it. My co-author Nick loves real estate. He owns it on multiple continents, and that is one of his main income sources because he really has a passion for it. For me, it was just a step in the right direction. And now what I do is I actually create a lot of content and license it to other people, and they pay me every time it's utilized. So that creates that kind of ability to take 5 days to do exactly what I want. And then I take 2 days to really manage it, maintain it, monitor it, have meetings to make sure everybody's on track. Because I don't believe there's such thing as purely passive income. It takes some responsibility and a degree of attention.
So what kind of content do you license?
So I create primarily financial content. Like even the book 5-Day Weekend is part of my intellectual property. Mm-hmm. So I'm really good at financial efficiency. Where can people get money back into their life without having a budget? Whether they're overpaying tax, overpaying interest, overpaying on insurance costs, or non-performing investment fees. I am an efficiency expert, and I bring a little bit of energy, passion, and fun to a normally drab topic of finance. So I really license it mostly to financial professionals that are really good meeting with people one-on-one, but not necessarily big on the one-to-many in the webinar format or the video series or the written content. I like to write, I like to speak, and that's kind of where my abilities are.
How do you keep people from getting distracted and to keep on focus?
That is such a powerful question, because I feel like there's so many things that look like opportunities that are just disguised distractions. And we have this kind of this syndrome of everything sounds good because people are salesmen. People out there are really good at telling you why something's going to work, not as good at telling you why it isn't going to work. And so the biggest thing that I do is every quarter I only create 5 objectives, and that's it. And if anything's outside of those 5 objectives, I put them into one of 4 categories. Number 1, a parking lot that I can revisit every month and see if it's going to make the next quarter. Another thing is just completely delegating it to someone else. If it's something that I have an infrastructure or a framework for, or maybe I just hand it off and get paid a percentage because I brought the deal to them. Or number 3, it gets moved into a folder called not doing now, which means it's almost the end of the quarter, and I'm almost certain I'm going to put it on the next set of objectives. Or number 4, the trash. And I think that just because we have a good idea doesn't mean it's an extraordinary idea. And it takes a level of abundance to say no to things. Warren Buffett said the difference between someone who's highly successful or someone who's just moderately successful is in direct proportion to the number of times they say no. The people highly successful say no, 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 and only yes to the things that are really dialed in and perfectly aligned with who they are. And here's someone who didn't get involved in that dot-bomb crisis because he said it wasn't part of like his investor DNA or his circle of competency. And I got to tell you, some of it's having good relationships around you, because I know so many people that got so suckered into the cryptocurrency thing at the last minute. Right?
I want to ask you about that. Before we do anything, when you first started speaking, everything was clear. Now it's become muffled. Is there something that happened?
I don't know.
There you go. Whatever you did, just fixed it. Okay.
Okay.
Are you driving?
Maybe when I talk with my hands, I start moving my phone around. I think that's what happens. It's the Italian in me.
All right. So when we mentioned the book this morning, we had a caller who said, I have a 7-day weekend because he's retired, and I would love to find out how to just work that 2 days, because it's not the money. He's looking for something to do that he will enjoy doing. So can you talk to that a little bit? Is there, I mean, the money is obviously something most of us are going to want, but some of us are just looking for something to do that is also rewarding to do. Does this apply to that?
Absolutely. Like the subtitle of the book really talks about living a life rich with purpose. The icons that we admire so much, they have more money than they can spend, but they don't retire by sitting around and doing nothing. Right. I kind of want to retire the concept of retirement. What if you have the financial infrastructure that you can choose to work instead of have to work? And now choose the things that you enjoy the most, and find the weirdo. Like, there's people that are weird enough to love the things that we hate doing, right?
Right.
Let them do that stuff. But I like, my 5-day weekend I'm spending more time writing. I'm spending more time in content creation. But I still have to deal with kind of running a business and managing people for the other 2 days. And then I could take, like, I took 2 months off last year and went to Italy. I'm going to do a month this year. Like, I just want people to have that kind of permission to do that. And then they focus more on cash flow. And that instead of retiring from purpose and value creation, which I think there's only so many times I can drink a Corona and throw a rock into the water, or, sit down and have lunch and have nothing to do in a day. It becomes a little bit boring. And I would rather be busy than bored. But even better, I'd rather be productive than either one of them. So I do think choosing into it makes a difference.
How do you get people motivated? Because some people are just satisfied just existing and not bettering themselves or their financial situation.
Well, typically there's a couple of motivators. One is if people get in enough pain and they have a big enough traumatic event or dramatic event, that can motivate them, because everything's going to be plugging along, and then health insurance creeps up and starts to confiscate their lifestyle, or inflation creeps up on them and they're like, hey, I can't quite live the life that I was used to, or an economic crisis happens, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, this isn't working. So that's one of the things. Or the other thing is, I think that motivation kind of is an internal thing, and I can't necessarily motivate people because you know how many people don't even open a book or read a book. So, I mean, I can give them the information, but candidly, it's what I would call hard easy instead of easy hard. Easy hard is just kind of coasting along in life and going, no, I'm comfortable. And then it gets hard one day when things change and you're not prepared for it. Hard easy is picking up that book, getting up and doing something, trying to create that cash flow, and then life gets easier as time goes on. And there's plenty of people. I'm from a coal mining town where there's plenty of people I could never motivate. So I just choose to spend time with the people that are curious and willing to do something.
And the people who are willing to be motivated, the people who will be inspired by what you're saying, I think are inspired when they see it for themselves, or at least read it for themselves. If I were told, if I was a coal miner, for example, and I hated being a coal miner, that would have to be important to this conversation. If I hated it, but I never saw anybody who got out of it, then I would just think it was hopeless. But if I saw one person who figured out a way to either write a book or paint a picture or do something or play football or something to get out of it, I might say, well, let me try to duplicate that. Is that part of the secret, is to replicate what other people have done?
Absolutely. See, when I was a teenager, I grew up in this little town called East Carbon, Utah. When my parents were growing up there were 5,000 people and 2 cops. Now there's 1,000 people and 5 cops. So it's going the wrong direction, And I went and filmed there just last year and took my whole family and showed them where I grew up. And like, it was for my kids, it kind of floored them. And even just some of my friends that I brought along. And I was like, hey, you know what happened to me was when I was a teenager, two things. One, I was in a rural young entrepreneur search that I got to present my business, and I got people that supported me to learn basics of finance. The second thing is I went to something called Governor's Honors Academy, which was 10 days, and I got to meet senators and all this. Like, it stretched my mind. So now I'm actually investing 1% of all of our revenues back into those types of communities, and we're hosting our own rural young entrepreneur search, because I think that there's people that have that ability and capability and desire, but they've just got to be shown there's some path. And I think you're right. Seeing someone else do it is a huge factor for it. And, you know, I looked at my dad's best friend who ended up moving to Hawaii from this little tiny town and living an amazing life, being involved in, you know, a cruise line we had ownership in. And like that was a seedling for me. I was like, that's possible. How is it possible? I want to be part of that possibility.
Wow. There's probably some truth in this, and I want you to comment on it. If we want to make money, we have to have something that people are willing to pay money for. The two things that kind of we talked about already are real estate and intellectual property, like for a book, for example. So how do you test the waters? How do you know whether it's real estate or a book or something else? Let's say maybe you want to open up a T-shirt business or something. I don't know. I just saw somebody in a T-shirt, so I thought of that. I mean, maybe how do we test the waters so that we know we're not, setting ourselves up for disappointment or for failure?
I love your guys' questions, by the way. Like, it pulls out stuff that I wouldn't even think of. But so I grew up in this town where the first time I played basketball in high school, we were 3-18. But we were ahead at halftime 19 times. So we were playing not to lose in the second half. That never works, and some people try to start an idea playing not to lose. The second thing is some people try to play to win. They just hustle, they want to do whatever it takes. But here's how you do it. I call it win then play. I started my first business at 15, and I didn't go out and I didn't raise money, number one, when I was 15 years old. Number two, I didn't go invest in a bunch of stuff. I went to a warm market, which was my dad, who was a coal miner, and my mom that worked at the credit union, and I asked if I could clean the vehicles that were being repossessed or that were the surface vehicles of the mine. I used existing supplies, and I reinvested. Now, back then, I went to my relationships. So everyone has relationship capital. If they're willing to tap into it, there's profit there, and there's a way to deliver value. The second thing, though, I believe in this concept, win then play. Think about the Super Bowl. The NFL wins before the game's played. It could be the worst game of the year. It could be a blowout, but they've already sold tickets. They've already sold TV rights.
Good point.
So you can win then play is you think of something that you go, would this be valuable to someone? And you tell someone, hey, this is what it's going to cost in the future. I'll sell it to you for half price right now because you're going to be a testimonial, a case study, and I'm building it as we go along. And then you can actually be profitable right from day one. And so I had a guy come to me and say, hey, I'm mentoring this guy that's a really well-known guy. He wants me to build a business program for him. You're a better teacher and content creator. Can we do this together? I said, all right, let's go speak to the 1,000 people, and let's see how it's received. All we're going to do is write an outline and do one video. And if it's received well, we'll finish the rest of the program. Well, guess what? It wasn't received as well as he expected it to, so we didn't develop it. On the other hand, I started creating this video program back in 2008. We pre-sold it for 50% of the cost, financed the entire thing, and then once the video series was done, it had all been paid for. It was all 100% profit when it was complete, when we went to the normal price. That's what I call win and play. And with the internet, there's so many things you can do as an independent contractor, whether you're a graphic artist, whether you're willing to drive someone. There's just an infinite number of things available to make a side income today.
And how about the people that have talent and skills, but they enjoy working for somebody else, like engineers, building trades to build high rises and things? Aren't they doing something worthwhile?
They are, and they're crucial. I call them, if you can become an intrapreneur, meaning you like to work inside of an organization, here's how you apply 5-day weekend principles. Is you go to your employer and say, hey, here's ideas I have to contribute to the bottom line in addition to what I'm doing. As I contribute to the bottom line, can I have some upside potential? Can I participate in that contribution? And as an employer, I like when people come to do that, and they find ways to add additional value and profit, and that's kind of how our whole business is built. So, yes, you can still have a side hustle if you want at night, or you can just go right into the organization. Like, we pay everyone in our organization a percentage of ideas that they bring to the table and a production that they bring that we wouldn't have had without them. And last year, our payroll was the biggest it's ever been, and I was happy about it because 50% of the income came from their ideas. And I love when there's great things going on in my organization that I wasn't the one that came up with the idea, because people support that which they help to build. And if we can have a call out to all the employers, empower your employees. They're gonna stay longer. It's not about golden handcuffs. It's about golden opportunities to keep them around.
I agree 100%. I think the thought that comes to mind as I listen to you is this: the title of the book wouldn't even be necessary, I guess, because it sounds like I would enjoy what I do so much that I would easily be doing whatever I'm doing 6-7 days a week even. I know that would make me a workaholic or something. I sort of kind of do that now. But when you really enjoy doing something, it's almost like you're always on a weekend.
Yeah, because when we have to do something, it's painful. If we choose to do something, it's so much better. And if you have the financial infrastructure that you know whether you go to work the next day or not, you're going to be okay. There's just a different level of peace of mind. And sure, maybe some people will choose to do nothing, but I think most people will choose to do something more significant and have a bigger impact.
How do you advise the person that have outside forces? They're working at a regular job for someone else. They're enjoying it, but then they want to go out and test the waters and see how they can work on their own. But then they might have a spouse or a parent that says, well, yeah, but you need to have a real job first.
The real job is the exact conversation I had with my mom when I was looking to start my own business versus go get these job offers. And my job offers were like Arthur Anderson, now nothing. Another one was Merrill Lynch. They've been totally annihilated. Strong Investments, the number 2 fund company in the world at the time. They're gone now. So they didn't see it as a real job. So it was hard to go against my family. But what's funny is they came from coal mines that go on strike for extended periods of time, and yet somehow they thought there was some safety and security. I believe that the only safety and security that we truly have is when we get really clear about our own ability to create value, develop that expertise. And so let me use an example of Dale Clark. This is a guy that when he came to one of our just one-day workshops, I didn't ever intend to have it be this powerful, but he came up and he goes, you know what, I'm gonna be economically independent in the next year. And like when my son tells me he's been practicing twice a day, he's going to beat LeBron James, I pat him on the head and go, that's really cute, good luck. but he got there in 362 days, working as an engineer, designing airplane engines, and then on the side, he just started to build real estate, which he was spending like 20 hours a week, which is a lot of time in addition to a full-time job. But his wife, it was hard to convince her, so he had to have a lot of conversations. He had to build out a plan together. Because what I found is usually when people are married, they're not the same money personality. One wants security, the other one wants to invest. One wants to amass wealth, the other wants to give it away. So there is this kind of conversation that has to happen. But if the common ground is we're going to get more financially stable so that we have more choice, and if I would ever lose my job or leave my job, all the food's still put on the table, all the car payments, house payments, if we have those, are completely made, and whatever we want to do as a family, the basics are handled. When I got to that point, my wife was infinitely more supportive than when I was starting out and I had 100 ideas. And she's like, oh, that sounds like that's going to cost us a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. And it's kind of hard, I think, if you have somebody who's supportive of you and then they start to lose, I guess that support starts to wane if you're not making progress as quickly as you hoped, and obviously somebody else would hope. When you teamed up with Nick to write the book, you formed a partnership of sorts, I guess, for the book anyway. And do you see a lot of people like forming partnerships either to sell real estate or to write books or to do anything?
Well, we got to be, like I heard a quote once that said, the only ship destined to sink is a partnership, and I think you got to be really careful in partnerships because most people go in optimistically and just thinking everything's going to work. And this is what I found about most business is any idea. And if someone's going to go through the book, like I think you could be crazy like Dell and get there in a year, but the likelihood is it's going to take 3 years at the earliest. 7 years is probably for a lot of people, and it's probably more like 10 years for some. So whatever you estimate is going to happen, give yourself twice that amount of time in communicating with the important people in your life. especially a spouse, because there are mistakes along the way that you have to learn the lessons and adjust from that. There are economies that change. Just things take longer sometimes than we anticipate. We usually overestimate what we could do in a short period of time, but then we underestimate what we could do in 10 years. Yeah. So most people think it takes 30 years to get retirement ready or economically independent. It does if you use the wrong information or you do it the slowest way and the riskiest way. But I'm sharing a very predictable model that Nick and I both have applied before we knew each other, you know?
Yeah,
and then we just refined that. And I wish I would have had this math, because I lost a lot of money along the way. And fortunately, I didn't lose my wife. She tolerated some stupid ideas over the way, you know?
So, Garrett, I have a sort of a personal question to ask you. What was your first job? And if you could somehow go back in time and speak to that young person you were, what would you say to him? What was your first job, first of all?
So, when I was, I don't know if we would consider this an exact job, so you tell me. When I was, maybe 12 years old, I started to mow all my family's yards, so my aunts and my uncles. Oh. I don't really had a choice in the matter. It was like, hey, I'm just going to come mow the lawn, and it was like family extortion. You're going to pay me to do this. When I was young, I spent my money pretty quick. And then when I started my next business at 15, washing cars, and I won the Young Entrepreneur of the Year doing it, so it got decently successful. I saved every dollar I had, so I was a complete miser. So I would have went back and said, hey, look, you got to understand, there's certain things that are good about using your money and enjoying it along the way. Don't just wait till one day, someday, because you can never get the memories that you don't have along the way. And I just didn't understand that as a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old.
I know two brothers. I grew up with them, and they are both 60 or so now. And one of them had these really great jobs in Manhattan working for law firms. The other one was a janitor at a school. Guess which one is the millionaire today? The janitor.
The janitor?
Yes.
Absolutely, because he knew how to take his money and parlay it into things, and the brother was basically making money and spending it. So, to put it bluntly, so I think there's a lot to be said for being smart with your money, but I think also being smart with your time, and doing the things that will contribute to the world, make you happy, and at the same time put a roof over your head, that kind of thing. I love this topic. This, to me, is the topic we should all be teaching each other. There would be no wars if we understood our own responsibility when it comes to making sure that we are providing for ourselves and our families.
Exactly.
Garrett, give me let's see. I found the book on Amazon, I think. I got the cover of the book on the interview we're doing right now. Do you have a website?
Yeah, I have a website. There's 5dayweekend.com.
Okay.
So you can learn more about the book and get some good resources, and even quick links that'll take you to Amazon and Barnes & Noble or whatever. So to dive into this book. And then my personal website is wealthfactory.com.
Wealth Factory?
Yep, Wealth Factory.
Wealth Factory, okay. Garrett Gunderson, thank you for taking time to be with us this morning, and we'd love to have you back. If you're ever in Florida, come into the studio.
All right, I really, really enjoyed this. Thanks, and just wonderful interview.
Very good. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Experience the thunder of the largest air show in the South as Sun and Fun returns to the skies of Lakeland, April 10th through 15th. This is your chance to see the precision of the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, the might of the Tora, a Pearl Harbor reenactment, and over 60 high-powered aerial performances. Walk the flight lines among historic warbirds